Hey y'all, it's Michael, and today I'm here to talk about two books that I recently read from the Manbooker long list. The first one is Lincoln and the Bardo by George Saunders. This is Saunders' first full-length novel. I have read his short story collection a few months ago. I had quite a few thoughts with that short story collection. I'll link my video down below if you want to check it out and see what I have to say. But overall, I thought the one thing that I did definitely get from Saunders was that he knows how to write. He's definitely a fantastic writer. The thing with this Saunders, in my opinion, especially now seeing with his short story collection, like especially in the particular short stories themselves individually, and then his this full length novel, is that the spectrum of not of to I love this is definitely really broad. From what I've seen, people either really hate it or really love it, and I'm quite fairly in the middle. um I'm not gonna lie though, out of the books, which I haven't read a lot, but out of the books that I have read from the Man Booker long list, and then just seeing around what like booktube and like other media is saying, like reviews and whatnot, I actually think this book um is one of the forerunners for the Man Booker Prize. This book tells the story of Abraham Lincoln as he visits his son's grave, Willie, because Willie actually just recently passed away. But what makes this book really interesting is how Saunders chooses to tell the story. So Saunders tells this story in a form of like little pieces and like diary entries, news articles, books, conscious thoughts, but we also get views from the ghosts and spirits of the people watching Willie as they're in this sort of purgatory state. They're not in heaven yet or in hell, but they're not quite alive, they're not quite dead. It's written like in a script form almost. It is a little bit weird that the person, whatever who said it from, is actually underneath their quote instead of the top. And it did take me a while for me to get used to the style of the writing, but after a while I did finally get used to it, doing this type of form, like writing it into the script form with all of these different collages and different media, different all of these things coming together. Is that what I think this book does really well, is present this story from all of these different views, like a collage almost, and piecing it together. I think it's like really fun as a reader. In an example, they're talking about his eyes, and it's funny because like one person would say his eyes were blue, but then someone was like gray, but then it has this hint of green. And so all of these different points of views coming in, especially because this is also like a historical context too, which is fantastic about Lincoln in general. Lincoln, at that time, was a really, I guess you would say, polarizing president. How the public viewed him was really interesting. Some really admire him, and some really hated him. And this does present some really beautiful moments. I always do enjoy father and son stories, so that is one of my weaknesses in storytelling. I just love seeing this dynamic, and I really did enjoy the parts where it's just so intimate and heartfelt, especially the moments when Lincoln talks about his son Willie, and it's just like, oh, it's really a precious moments between this father and son, and how he's feeling about his losing his son so early. It's really, I I I thought it was really emotional. The thing that really bothered me with this was the style. And while I admire it for all of these different things coming in together, the individual stories between Roger and Hans and the pastor, it was just really confusing because they're essentially like, I guess, three main side characters, because everybody else was, in my opinion, was like a side character, and it really was confusing for me. I constantly had to keep, like, I wrote a lot of notes down when I was reading this book, and I constantly had to keep going back and forth, and I was like, it can be a little bit jarring with all of these voices coming in, but in one aspect I think that it is really cool, like all of these voices coming in to make one cohesive story, but at the same time it could be jarring. But yes, overall I think I am completely in the middle with this novel, and while I think it's the forerunner that's going to win the Manbooker, I really do see the literary merits of it, and I also can see the, I guess you would say, like, the political aspect of this, and like the the way that you could view as like now, because a lot of the Manbooker books that I am realizing is that it has a lot of undertones of the political state right now. Like Lincoln in the Bardo, you could see how it's almost like fake news, how some of the statements that they do make is like not really true. I see this novel as one where it is also readable in the sense that if you I can see myself reading it again and getting something different because I know what I'm going into with this book, because beforehand, I definitely did not. I gave Lincoln in the Bardo 3 out of 5. The next book, I also think it's gonna be on the short list. Like, I think it's gonna be up there with Lincoln in the Bardo, and I'm not gonna lie, it is my personal favorite. Like, out of the four books so far that I have read from the Man Booker, I think this is my favorite out of that list, but I also think it's one of my favorites of the year. I really enjoyed it, and that's Autumn by Ali Smith. This is my first Ali Smith novel. This is part one of her Seasons Quartet novel. Wow. Like I said, like I showed you guys on my Friday Reads video, I completely understand and see how y'all love Ali Smith, because this made me a believer. I thought this was fantastic as a novel. We have two timelines with this. This is about Elizabeth, and is in the current state, current time now, and this is about Elizabeth and her longtime friendship with this older gentleman, Daniel, and this book does so much. So I'm gonna try to be cohesive as I can about it. What I love most about this is that the whole time I was reading this book, I was like, yes, Queen, yes! Like, the writing style, if I had to describe this book, it is so much fun to read. Like, literary wise, it's so much fun because first off, Daniel's chapters, it's like almost stream of consciousness, and it has this feeling of like lightness and, I wouldn't say magical, but yeah, I could say magical, but almost worldly like, which is in contrast with Elizabeth's chapter, which is like, since it's taking place in current time, it's a little bit more straightforward. But what also this book does is that it has so many literary references, and while I would probably say like 70% went over my head, I got a few of them, and I was like, oh my gosh, I know where you got this from. But it's not so um, like in your face. If you're really looking for it, then you can see it. But I felt as though, like, even though Smith is throwing all of these literary allusions at the reader, that it doesn't hinder from the storytelling. The thing is that since this is in two timelines, it does get a little bit muddled at times when I was reading. I was like, the way that she transitions between the timelines, for me anyways, that I felt as though it was like a little bit at times, but I felt as though at the end she does pull it all together, and I did learn some things about art which I always really enjoy, and there is this moment in here that it was like, when I say relatable and hilarious, it was so relatable. So Elizabeth has to go to like the post office. I guess because here in the U.S., that's where you get your passport from, is the post office. And the hassle of let me tell you, the hassle that Elizabeth has to go through is just like here in the US, where you have to get your passport. Getting your passport here in the US, even like just renewing it, is such a hassle. First off, you have to go to the post office, which is, oh, right there. Going to the post office is awful. Like, literally, going to the post office is awful. But then you can't like even pay in cash. You gotta pay with a check. You can't even pay with your card. So you have to have a checking account or a traveler's check, a cashier's check, and hassle already there because not many people nowadays carry checks with them. So there's that, and it's pretty expensive. And then if you don't take the photo correct, like if the person that takes your photo doesn't do it correctly, then you'll look stupid looking like this. Like they always catch you off guard. So it's like 1, 2. This is being claimed as Brexit, a post-Brexit novel. Just the snippets and the poetry that she captures when she is talking about Brexit. I was like, wow, it is beautifully written. I would recommend this. I think I can't gush about it enough. I really enjoyed it. I gave Autumn by Ali Smith 4.5. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was everything about it was fun. The experience of reading it, the literary quality of it is so much fun. I really enjoyed Elizabeth as a character, even like and Daniel too, the way that the book captures it. And I also did even enjoy like the side characters, like the mom, the postal worker. I really like this novel. I would recommend it. Yeah, until then, let me know if you read any of these books. And if you're doing any Manbooker videos, I would love to check them out. I'll see you guys till later. Bye!